Hi, and welcome back to our Hamish Manti space where we get to talk about Emunah and Bitachon and allow ourselves to just fly as high as we can in talking about Emunah Bitachon and trying to feel it. And this is our space, Be'ezras Hashem, where these words, this is the space we can allow ourselves to really swim in the waters of Emunah and Bitachon together. So thank you so much for sharing the space with me and giving the opportunity in Parshas Vayeishev to share these holy words of Rabbi Asher with you about Yosef at Tzaddik. I'm so glad that you were on in today's program. Thank you so much for being there. Oh, yesterday's program. I'm glad that you enjoyed that. Yesterday, I was privileged to be giving a class about friendship through the incredible Ultimate Hanukkah Party. Today, I was part of a panel that, if anybody's joining, I hope that you will. You'll get to see the recordings and get to have all kinds of Hanukkah goodies. I have a whole bunch of inspiration for Hanukkah that is special recorded series for the Ultimate Hanukkah Party. So if you're interested, you can check it out in the email that I will have sent this week. So we see in the Medrash on the Parsha that HaKadosh Baruch Hu's, the way HaKadosh Baruch Hu interacts with people is not like the way people interact with people. It doesn't take us by surprise that Hashem is different than we are. But now we're going to find out in one area, in one aspect, in what way is HaKadosh Baruch Hu so different from us? In what way are we so different from HaKadosh Baruch Hu that we can learn how to be more like the Ribbon Shel Olam? A person, when he sees his friend has it good, his friend is successful, his friend is succeeding what he does, he wants to get close to him, he wants to know him and be his friend. And then when his friend has a downturn, when his friend is having harder days. So again, we're not talking about a really good friend. We're talking about B'nai Adam. We're talking about regular stam people. They would see somebody starting to have a bad time. They're not being so successful. Well, they might decide to move away, go find themselves better friends. Friends are doing better somewhere else. This is what we call fair weather friends, right? The people who stick with you when things are going well, but when things are going tough, they're not so keen to stick around. The Bid of Kadosh Baruch Hu is not like this. When Yosef was experiencing his moment of greatness and honor in the home of his master Potiphar, there was no one greater than him. He was the second to Potiphar. He was in charge of the entire estate. And V'haya Hashem im Yosef. At that time, HaKadosh Baruch Hu was with Yosef at Tzaddik. He was successful. He was everyone looked up to him, and Kadosh Baruch Hu was with him. Chaya asur bein ha'asurim bebeis hasar. When he was in prison, among the prisoners, then it says Vayehi Hashem es Yosef, and Hashem was with Yosef when he was in prison as well. So we see HaKadosh Baruch Hu is with a person, no matter what the external circumstances are, but Kadosh Baruch Hu is with the person. So Rabosh asks why. Why is that the case? And he answers because it's actually up to the person themselves how much HaKadosh Baruch Hu is with them. It's not Hashem, as it were, choosing, but the person themselves is actually instrumental in creating that reality. How so? Because, and it's brought down in the name, Rashi brings down the name of the Baal Shem Tov, but it's also brought down in the name of the Gra and the Chida, I'm sorry, the Ben Ish Chai, the Ben Ish Chai and the Gra and the Baal Shem Tov, everybody says this. That just as a person goes with the Kadosh Baruch Hu, that is how Kadosh Baruch Hu responds to us. In Tehillim it says, Hashem tzilcha, Hashem is your shadow. And on that pasuk, this is what everybody says, that just as when a person, maybe you can see here on the wall here, can you see? Yeah, there we go. Perfect example. As I move my hand, those listening to the recording can't see this, but I'm moving my hand and you can see a shadow moving against the wall. So just as a person moves, a shadow moves with a person. So Hashem Silcha, Hashem is your shadow. Just as you move, the Kadosh Baruch Hu moves with you. If we move and take a Kadosh Baruch Hu with us, then Hashem is with us no matter where we are. A Kadosh Baruch Hu, if we down here go with Emunah in HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Hashem is going to show us that our Emunah was well placed. If we go with the belief that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to be generous to us, then Hashem is going to send down His generosity. If we down here believe Hashem loves us, and this is, the Nesiva Shalom says this, that when a Yid believes that he is the only child, it is as if he's the only child of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and the HaKadosh Baruch Hu loves him as if he is his only child. Gam milamala, also from above, then HaKadosh Baruch Hu shifts to the behavior of the father of an only child, according to the way that we believe about HaKadosh Baruch Hu's interaction and relationship with us. That is how we, as it were, recreate the relationship according to how we believe it to be. That's what Hashem Tzilcha means, according to all the Mefarshim. And so, if a person goes down here in a successful part of his life, the hashgacha process is shining on him. Things are going well. I know. Let's say, I know a Rav who he made highly successful shidduchim with his children, and he had a good position in a shul, and things were going very well. And then he had a downturn. One of his younger children got divorced. He didn't get the kind of position that he wanted. It doesn't mean that he is no longer a worthy person. Life sends us different kinds of circumstances. And it doesn't mean I'm no longer a good person or a worthy individual if HaKadosh Baruch Hu has decided that I have new life circumstances. But people often will turn around and be fair with their friends, and will walk away from a person if they perceive that they're not having that kind of success. But what happens to the person themselves? Person is feeling himself successful in his life, and his eyes, let's say this particular person, like Yosef Atzadik, he doesn't get blinded from his success. He doesn't decide that, well, I deserve this and it's all because of me. He doesn't take personally the success. He doesn't ascribe it to himself. He understands that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives, and that success is a cycle, and it could be a wheel that turns around. And he holds on to a path of emunah and bitachon, no matter whether he's successful or whether he isn't. So Hashem is with him, and Hashem helps him to succeed. And Hashem shows him that he's with him, and that the success is due to Kadosh Baruch Hu. And then the hefech, when the wheel turns, and he may find himself poor, he may find himself missing the basics. He may find that he's even lost everything. We hear stories of exceptionally wealthy people who all of a sudden overnight become indebted. They lose millions. Most of us can't lose millions, but there are those people that can, and they have. And what happens? What happens in such a situation? If a person is a Baal Emunah, then of course, he's going to experience pain. Okay, pain is a normal human reaction, but he's not going to despair in his pain. And he is going to continually hold onto his emunah and bitachon, and he's going to put all of his faith and hope and trust into HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And then he trusts that Hashem is going to be with him to lift him up from that low place. Because that is the way HaKadosh Baruch Hu works for us, midah keneged midah. When we hold onto HaKadosh Baruch Hu, whether we're successful, whether we're not successful, whether we have everything that we need, whether we don't have what we need, whether things are going the way that we want, whether things are not going the way that we want, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going with us midah keneged midah. The midah with which we interact with the HaKadosh Baruch Hu, with emunah, with bitachon, with a steadfast attachment to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It doesn't mean that we don't feel pain. It's really important that we understand that pain can coexist with emunah. Pain can coexist with gratitude. Many people you're going to be finding are talking about gratitude during Hanukkah, because Hanukkah is 8 days of L'hodos U'Lahalal. Is to thank and to praise the Kadosh Baruch Hu. And people sometimes think that you're not allowed to even express that you're in pain, because you're only allowed to thank the Kadosh Baruch Hu. And that's not true. Expressing that we're in pain is not a lack of gratitude. It's not a complaint. Okay? Simply saying, ow, this hurts. We have to say it hurts, because we have to ask the Kadosh Baruch Hu to help make it better. That's not a complaint. It's very, very different than complaint. Complaint is, why did this happen to me? And it's not, what should I do about it? That's not a complaint either. The complaint is, why me? Why did this have to happen to me? Okay, that's a complaint. So if you don't want to complain during Kislev, I totally understand. We try never to complain and to ask Kadosh Baruch Hu, why me, but to have emunah and say, ow, this hurts, and I know it came from you, Ribono Shel Olam, and I know that you're with me. Whether what I'm going through is going to be successful or whether it's not going to be successful, I know that it's all from you. That's different, right? So that's what Kadosh Baruch Hu goes with us. When we are attached to Kadosh Baruch Hu through the ups and downs, Kadosh Baruch Hu is with us through the ups and downs as well. And so the Medrash says, when Yosef was a slave, was a servant in the house of his master, he said, how could I act out? How could I misbehave and do an avera? Meaning, even when he was at that highest point of success, he didn't lose himself and say, well, I can allow myself to do anything because I'm so successful. He didn't lose himself like that. He said, I am still completely subservient to Kadosh Baruch Hu, no matter if I've been put upon the entire house of Potiphar. But he didn't fill himself with pride and say, well, I can play with the Torah the way I want it because I'm so big. He didn't do that. He said, how could I possibly do something that Hashem has decided I should not do? And then later on, when he was the king, when he was second to the king, he even said, Es Elokim ani yareh. Even when he was second to the king, he said, I fear only the Ribono Shel Olam. He kept a steadfast yiras shamayim, yiras chait, staying away from what shouldn't be done, attaching himself to what should be done throughout all the ups and downs in life. If a person never goes through downs, meaning, and if a person never experiences a lack of success, a challenge, things aren't going the way that he wanted, things are going very much the way she didn't want. If we never have those kinds of experiences, we would never know the challenge of holding on to Kadosh Baruch Hu when things don't go the way that we wanted. And sometimes we think, well, if I would have been better, it would never have happened to me. If I wouldn't have thought this or done this or said this, or if I would have been perfect, it would never have happened. We have to understand, no. Avram Avinu and Yaakov Avinu, they were tested over and over again because the Kadosh Baruch Hu wanted to bring out the emunah that they had. And Hashem wanted to give them the capacity to show how, despite what they were going through, despite the challenges, how they were attached to Kadosh Baruch Hu. So it doesn't mean they were bad. They weren't singled out because they were weak or because they didn't have the capacity to withstand the test. On the contrary, they were chosen because they did have the capacity to pass the nisyonos. And when we see that people go through different periods of their life, times where the sun seems to shine on them and everything seems to go their way, and times where there's a cloud and the cloud seems to be preventing the sun from shining, but we know that Kavod Hashem nireh ba'anan, that the honor of HaKadosh Baruch Hu is actually hiding in the cloud, but it's hiding and it's not apparent, and we don't see this Siyata D'Shmaya when things don't seem to be going so great. In fact, sometimes when things seem to be going really, really, really painfully and in all kinds of challenging ways. So when we fulfill the pasuk, Shivisi Hashem lenegedi tamid, I put Kadosh Baruch Hu before me always. I'm always looking to see what does Hashem want from me now. And Shivisi comes from the root of the word shaveh. It's equal. The midah of hishtavut. The midah of I am going to stay attached to a Kadosh Baruch Hu, and I'm not going to let my own attachment to myself and my mission and being true to who I am, I'm not going to let that waver, whether the sun is shining on me or whether it's pouring with rain. Today, Baruch Hashem, we had such a stormy day in here in Eretz Yisrael. Baruch Hashem, we had thunder and lightning and storms and rain. And Baruch Hashem, I had children in Tiberias, and my son said, let the Kinneret just fill up in one day of rain. It looks like Be'ez Hashem, we're well on the way to that because there's all kinds of storms. Hashem should continue sending down the rainy days. And sometimes we don't enjoy the rainy days. They're cold, they're wet, they may be very uncomfortable. And same with the rainy days that we call, not the literal rainy days, but the days that seem like they're rainy days, right? They seem like rainy days. We're shivering, we're cold. We're wondering, when is the sun going to come out? When are we going to see the light? There's challenge all around. It's not because we're weak or because we've been singled out for problems because we did something wrong. Kadosh Baruch Hu has his plan, and even Yosef Atzadik had some really challenging years. Yaakov Avinu, Avraham Avinu, they had really challenging years. Okay? Shavisi Hashem, the Neged Summit, means whatever I'm going through, it may be really, really painful, but I know Hashem is here. And I'm not going to take the law into my own hands and decide which mitzvahs I'm going to keep or which mitzvahs not, just because I'm having a hard day. And even though things are challenging, I still say, Kimi mini bal emait, that Kadosh Baruch Hu is still next to me. I'm not going to stumble. I'm not going to fall. I am not going to be blasted out of my heritage. Yosef Atzadik, we know, was put 2 years into 2 more years into prison because he said, "Remember me." And I always say, he wasn't blasted out of Jewish history for making a mistake and doing too much ishtadlus. He got 2 more years, but that wasn't fun. Certainly, the kinds of prisons that they had in those times were no luxurious kinds of prisons that exist today. Okay, it was probably a pit. It was described as a pit, and it probably was a pit. It wasn't a pleasant place to be. But he was taken out. He became the viceroy of the kingdom. He basically became the king of Klal Yisrael, and he was the one that established the whole infrastructure that would support the nascent nation of Klal Yisrael as they became Klal Yisrael. And he was the one that created the infrastructure, the yeshivas and the shuls and whatever systems needs to be put in place. Yosef Atzadik put those in place. So he went on to have an even more successful period in his life after those dark years that he was in prison. It's almost, we could even say that after periods of darkness, people go on to have periods of incredible light if they can go through it with their faith intact. So he felt that Hashem was supporting him, and Hashem wasn't going to let him fall. And he said, Gam ki yipol lo yutal, that even if I fall, I will not stumble. He won't be left alone. If sometimes a person falls and he ends up really, in the dust, and it looks like he'll never be able to get up, as long as he trusts in a Kadosh Baruch Hu, he will not be abandoned. Kadosh Baruch Hu is going to help him. Hashem is going to guide him. He's going to give him the strength and the support that he needs in order to be able to get up. And further on in the Parsha, it says, Vayar Adonov ki Hashem itoy. And Yosef's master saw that Hashem was with him. So Rabasha asked the question, how did Potiphar see that? How could this non-Jewish Egyptian, how could he have the perspective and the depth of understanding to see that HaKadosh Baruch Hu was with Yosef through all of these travails? Maybe Yosef's success was just mikra, just happenstance, the way that they would believe it. Why did Potiphar see beyond that surface of Yosef's success? And why did he think that, oh, there's something deeper, there's someone behind the success of Yosef Tzaddik? So this is the belief that the nations of the world have, is that if a person goes up, he goes up, and if a person goes down, he goes down. That happens. When a person's up, they're up, and a person is down, they're down. But here, Potiphar saw something else. Potiphar saw that Yosef was sold as a slave, that you don't have any position lower than that. And he saw that even when he was a slave, he was successful. Even when he was down at the lowest level, but there was a success with him. It wasn't that he was down and down and down and out, but he perceived something else. Even though his position was the lowest position, but there was a certain kind of success that he was enjoying, even at that lowest social level. And then he saw that when he rose up through the ranks, that he continued having success, and that the success was smiling on him, whether he was low or whether he was high. There was a certain level of siyata d'shmaya that he had, no matter where he was. And that was the proof that it was a koyach elyon that was standing with Yosef, and Hashem was with him. That was what Potiphar saw, that there was a higher power that was going together with Yosef, that even in the lowest times, even when he was brought down to the very lowest level, but that Hashem was with him, even at that lowest level, because he was still having success. It didn't stop the fall. It didn't stop the fact that he had to go through that tikkun that he went through, but he was still experiencing siyata d'shmaya. We may have had our own personal fallings. We may have found that we had success and things were smiling on us, and then we had situations that we came down, and then maybe Kodesh Baruch Hu smiled upon us again, and we were able to go back up. Whatever the life situation is, the message that we can take away from here is that it's not the actual external circumstances that help us to know if Hashem is with us. Let's not feel our hearts fall if something we invested in didn't go well, something that we tried hard with and we really hoped for and we davened for didn't pan out the way that we wanted it. We've davened to something and it didn't come through the way we wanted. That doesn't show us whether Hashem is with us or not, because we don't get to decide our lives according to what we want today, tomorrow, even what we've invested in for many, many years. We don't get to decide that. But are we experiencing siyata d'shmaya in the way that we live our life? Do we see that Hashem is with us? Do we find that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is shining on us and talking with us, communicating with us, and that we feel that there's a siyata d'shmaya even within the circumstances that are painful? We could, even within the painful circumstances, we could feel Hashem guiding us and communicating with us and helping us. If that's the case, that's how we can know that Baruch Hashem, we are living with that midah of Shavis Hashem lenegdi tamed. We're living with that situation of I'm looking for you, Hashem, and I have emunah. So it's not a lack of emunah if we find that certain things don't go the way that we wanted. And it doesn't mean that we didn't have enough emunah to make them go our way, because we don't run the world. But just as Yosef was at the pinnacle of success and then ended up in the dust and then again went up, and wherever he was, he attached himself to Kadosh Baruch Hu. So we may find some things are going our way, and then we find we davened, we hoped, something didn't work out the way we wanted it. We ended up deeply disappointed because we really wanted it, and yet we feel a Kadosh Baruch Hu is with us. We feel that he's communicating with us, that there's a level of Siyata D'Shmaya in certain things that we see. The Kadosh Baruch Hu is there. Don't lose faith. That doesn't mean that Hashem is not listening. It means that those things are part of the external circumstances. Hashem has decided this is your life. This is the way it has to be right now. It doesn't mean it can't change. With hope and with emunah and bitachon, doesn't mean it can't change. But know that Hashem is with us. If you have any questions, okay, please put them into the chat. Check in the chat now if anybody has anything that you wanted to be addressed. Anything there? One second, I see that there's some reason I can't see any other. Anybody want to unmute and share something or say something if you want to? Anybody?
I want to say good job, yes. And thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for being there. Yeah, that helped you. I'm so happy. I'm so happy that I helped to hear those words. Baruch Hashem. Yes, life is full with ups and downs. Life has always got challenges, and it doesn't mean that we did something wrong if we ended up with those things in our lives. Doesn't mean we did something wrong. Hashem is with us, like Yosef Atzadik, like Avram Avinu. They went through ups and downs. We go through ups and downs. That's part of life. Hold on to your emunah, and Be'ez Hashem. Hashem will take us up again. Thank you so much for being here. Good Shabbos, everybody, and wishing everybody a beautiful and lichtige Hanukkah. This Shabbos is the Shabbos right before Hanukkah, where the lights are starting to come down. I have challenges. My husband has lied for 30 years about the finances that he doesn't have. Oh, it's so painful. It's so painful. And living in a marriage where we live in a society where shalom bayis and marriage is if not everything, then it's something that is really put on a pedestal. And in a lot of the instances, we could put in all of the work that we could put in, but we cannot make a marriage if the partner is not holding up their side of the bargain. And in so many places, women unfortunately are shamed for a lack of shalom bayis, even though it's nothing that they could do. They're doing everything in their power to do what they could do, and still they're not able to change that. So yeah, that's really hard. And you're living with emunah bitachon, you're living with the Kadosh Baruch Hu. You can't change the circumstances of who your husband is. Can't change him, but you can hold on to a Kadosh Baruch Hu yourself and live with your emunah bitachon. So thank you for sharing that, and I hope that helps. Lying in marriage is super painful, and the community, that one of our community members is saying, we're holding the space for you of how painful that is to discover that there's been lying in a marriage. We hope, and every young woman hopes that her marriage is going to be a place of perfect trust and perfect unity, and it doesn't always turn out like that. And it's not because the woman is not able to trust or is not trustworthy, but often she's married to somebody who isn't trustworthy. And we have to bear that in mind, that it takes two to make a marriage, but it only takes one to really ruin it. One person could be trying as hard as they could try, and the other person could actually wreck the marriage by themselves. You have to really realize that. So holding space for you, holding space for everybody who may be listening in similar circumstances, and wishing everybody that the light of emunah comes into our hearts this Shabbos and lasts through Hanukkah, and that we have the koyach to thank even with the pain. It doesn't take away from the gratitude, and the gratitude is not affect. Meaning, we can have gratitude and still hold on to the pain, and the pain is real, and we don't have to deny the pain in order to thank Kadosh Baruch Hu for what we do have, because everyone has different circumstances. Okay, thank you, everybody. Have a beautiful Shabbos. Bye for now.
Thank you so much.
Great to hear you.